This is lesson 10, Advanced Editing Techniques. In this lesson, I'm working with PR1001. I've already gone ahead and loaded the Reporter at Crime Scene clip into my source monitor, and I've also gone ahead and added in and out points to this clip. Now, this particular clip has two parts. The reporter is doing her intro, her introduction to the story, her opening, and then she immediately does her outro, her exit from the segment. What I'd like to do is take this clip and divide it into two sections. Now, I could just add the two pieces to the timeline, but in situations like this where I have a clip that I'd like to subdivide, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll make a subclip. A subclip is made from subdividing, separating two parts of a master clip. It allows me to actually have a new subclip icon in the project panel, and it's very helpful if you're mixing and matching and moving parts of your clip from one point to another. Subclips are also sometimes called digital cutting, because you're not making a new actual physical clip on your hard drive. You're just creating a pseudo clip in Premiere Pro. To make a subclip, you load the clip into the source monitor, as I've done here. You set in and out points, and then you use clip make subclip. I'm going to change the name to Reporter at Crime Scene Intro. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to take the outro and make a subclip as well. So I'm going to click on the source panel to activate it.
This is Amy. This is Amy.
So in about 10 seconds, she starts her outro. I'm going to move my playhead to 9 seconds, just to give myself a little extra space, a little extra padding. I'm going to click I to set a new endpoint. I'm going to press spacebar to play through.
This is Amy Redding, live from NYCN News, New York.
And at about 14:15, I'm using the right arrow key on my keyboard to move my playhead one frame at a time. If you want to move the playhead forward one frame at a time, it's the right arrow key on the keyboard. If you want to move it back one frame at a time, that's the left arrow key on the keyboard. And I'm going to press O to set the new out point. And then again, I'm going to choose Clip, Make Subclip. Again, I'll change the name, and this will be Reporter at Crime Scene Outro. And yes, I know outro sounds really, really funny, but that actually is a term. And notice if you look in the project panel, there's now two additional clip icons, and they're a little different than the main clip icon. They can be seen to have the clip symbol, but they also have a little brace symbol, a little curly bracket around it. I'm going to extend the name field so I can actually see the full name. And now I'm going to add Reporter at Crime Scene Intro to my timeline, and Reporter at Crime Scene Outro after that. I'm going to zoom into my timeline a little bit so I can see them. And what I'd like to actually add now is a clip between the two intro and outro clips. So here's what I'm going to do. The clip I want to add is called Bystander Interview 1. So I'll simply double click on that clip to load it up into the source monitor. And this clip already has in and out points prepared on it. I'd like to add this right between the two clips on the timeline. So I'm going to move my playhead on the timeline to the space between the clips. You can do that by dragging the playhead and holding down Shift. Holding down Shift while dragging the playhead forces it to snap to the objects on the timeline. The other choice is to use the up and down arrow key. The up and down arrow keys allow you to jump from edit line on the timeline to edit line. So either way, you can very quickly navigate around your timeline. Now, I already have in and out points in my source monitor. What I'd like to do is set a point on the timeline for where I want to insert this clip. This is called a 3-point edit because I need 2 points, either on my timeline or my source monitor, and a third point in the opposite location. So if I have 2 points on my source monitor, I need 1 point on my timeline, and that will serve as the location for where I'm going to insert my clip. If I have 2 points on my timeline, indicating a duration that I'd like to add. I would then need one point in my source monitor to line up with the in point on the timeline. So since the source monitor already has an in out point defining the duration of the clip that I want to add, I'm going to add an in point marker in the timeline. Simply by moving my playhead to the desired location, where it is now, right between the clips, and pressing the I key on the keyboard. I now have 3 points. I am ready to do my 3-point edit. Now, what I'd like to do, there are two kinds of edits I can perform with a 3-point edit. I can perform an overwrite edit, or I can perform an insert edit. An overwrite edit overwrites whatever is already on the timeline. An insert edit pushes any content on the timeline over to the right to accommodate the clip you're trying to add or insert into the timeline. The main difference is that an insert edit always makes the timeline longer to accommodate the new clip you're adding. An overwrite edit simply replaces what's already there, so it may not actually make the overall duration of the timeline any longer. An insert edit is performed by clicking on the Insert button in the source monitor, or by pressing the comma key on your keyboard. When clicked, the in point of the source monitor is lined up with the in point on the timeline, and any content on the timeline that is extending past it simply gets pushed to the right. That's an insert edit. In this video, you've learned how to prepare clips in the timeline by adding in and out points. You've learned how to add clips to the timeline by dragging and dropping them. You've also learned how to create a 3-point edit by making an in and out point on the clip in your source monitor and an in point on the timeline, giving 3 points that the program can use to synchronize where to start your clip. And you've learned to use the insert edit command to add a clip to the timeline and extend the duration of the overall timeline by pushing all the clips to the right of the insert point over by the duration of the clip you're adding.